Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of Between the Lines. On this podcast, you will hear about and from lesser-known Canadian authors and writers who, for whatever reason, have remained under the radar of traditional publishers and publishing houses. You will also hear from editors, literary agents, and publishers in the hopes of giving us all a better understanding of how it all works together. If it has something to do with writing or the writing process, you are going to hear a discussion about it here. I'm your host, Randy Lacey. I'm encouraging you to grab your bevy of choice, get comfy, and get ready to go between the lines. People come into writing in several different ways. For some, it was a teacher at school handing out a writing assignment, while for others, it may have been by reading and wondering if they might be able to write. Every writer has started their writing journey on a different path. Each writer's journey will be different, yet similar. But one thing all writers have in common is a different destination. Hello, and welcome to Between the Lines. Today, I will be speaking with Philip Mann, the author of Dark Muse, Volumes 1 and 2. He currently hails from Montreal. Hello, Philip, and welcome to Between the Lines.
Hi, Randy.
You currently call Montreal home. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do in and about Montreal, or what makes you fun in Montreal?
I'm post-retirement. As of now, I'm still married.
As of now?
My wife hasn't changed the locks yet. I'm occupy myself and I do carpool, driving kids to daycare and stuff like that, and read a lot and do stuff. Write online, write for Medium, basically try very, very hard to stay out of trouble, and not all successfully.
Well, it is Montreal after all.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I kind of like Montreal. Old Montreal is nice. I prefer Quebec City a lot better. Have you been up there?
Here and there, yeah, not too often.
Are you in NDG, or where are you?
Outremont, near Park and Bernard, what you call Outremont Mile End area,
Okay.
Like when I was able to, it's within walking distance of downtown.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, thanks for that brief intro. Let's get right into question period here and move along. So we'll start with what do you fear most as a writer?
That my wife would read the book.
Truth be told.
It's got some pretty adult scenes in it. And, anyway, but, you got to make it lively,
Well, okay, yeah. So what would you say the nature of your books are then? Are they erotica, or are they...
Some parts are, because I shied away from it at first. But then I thought, it's cheating the audience a bit. Some people like it, some people don't, Even how one person said she couldn't finish a book because there's too much rough sex in it. But others didn't mind at all. I mean, reading about it, not necessarily taking part in it,
No, I hear that. Yeah, it's hit and miss with a lot of things, right? So You're either on or you're off.
Yeah, because I've seen read some people, I'm not going to mention names, are very, very careful with how they write. Everybody's nice, neat, and tidy, but my characters are vivid.
Okay.
They come to life, they have their faults, and they have their good parts and their bad parts, and the trick is finding which dominates. How do you refer to them as,
Okay, so but how did you get into writing that style then?
Personal experience. Understanding that some people, not everybody is what they seem. Some people they can seem very nice and well-mannered, but if you touch a certain nerve, they'll explode. I have that sometimes. Because what makes people relatable, characters relatable when you draw them, is when they have these conflicts. You're not sure which way somebody's going to go. Let's say somebody's trying to kick a habit. Will he stay away from the people that play into him? Or will he say, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Or name any habit like smoking, say he's quitting smoking. But then there's certain things remind them of what it feels like. I've never smoked, but they feel like, it's the coffee I have with it. It's the people I smoke with. And then you turn that around to people you don't want to associate with, but they're fun and they can be dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
or display emphasize your bad side. So that's why I like characters,
I find that in a lot of it, I don't read as much as I used to for obvious reasons, but when I did read, I found characters were too oftentimes cut and polished to fit a certain mold or way of being, and they, although they might have done some bad things, they were polished bad things and not real like what I know or what I've lived or what you've lived. Did you find that, or do you find that?
I mean, reading?
Yeah.
Reading, I tend to read a lot of nonfiction, which is strange because I wrote a paranormal, you know? It's a weird thing. Maybe because when I read a nonfiction, I know pretty much what I'm getting. Even then, I sometimes don't like it. But not if you're reading a fiction book, you're not sure how it's going to turn out. So it's sort of it's like taking in a child, not sure. Well, I don't like you. Well, you can't tell them to go away. You know, he's got to stay with you. But I'll tell you something that I did in the book. Like there's a heroine and anti-heroine. Okay.
Okay.
Anti-heroine looks like mad, bad, and dangerous to know. And one day she meets up with the street person, asks her for money, and she's lacing into him, calling him a bum and a lazy, drifter. And then she changes her mind, gives him a wad of cash, and that plays through the first two books. Okay, and now that she has a soft side for certain people, So I've seen my reading. Look, I'm religious, so one magazine I read here is a religious magazine, and one thing that bothers me is that none of the characters are really bad. I read one article once where there's some conflict between husband and wife. I didn't know what the fight was about. It had been censored. It had been censored totally. And I was wondering, well, what are we supposed to get out of this thing, anyways? What happens if she finds his stash of porn or his stash of frillies or something?
Mm-hmm.
What happens then? I mean, you hear about this from time to time. I've walked onto the facts and husband and wife having at it. It can get nasty,
Mm-hmm.
It can get nasty. And sometimes you want to say, well, do people we write about really have these fights? Oh, I have one here. I can't read. I think it was adultery or something. About a few years ago, about a guy who was professor at the university. Okay, he's written 4 books, well-acclaimed books, and for some reason he feels the obligation to cheat on his wife. And for somebody who doesn't read his stuff at all, and it's just the weirdest thing, I wanted to reach into the book and shake him by his collar. You idiot! You know how hard it is to find. His wife married him for his writing, loves his writing, but he still is determined to cheat on him. It ends up with him drinking himself to death, or just downing a few bottles in some cheap hotel because she's dumped him and thrown him out of the house. That sort of thing. What I mean, where you want to take doesn't have much in the way of a good side. That's a problem. He's a real anti-hero.
Yeah. Is that where you tend to gravitate to? Is that type of person or story character?
It started one of the characters when somebody we know posted something in the website. Have you ever written from a broken place? And of course, I'm lucky. My childhood is pretty normal, but some things bother me, conflicts like that. So I started writing things that about characters that aren't, even the good ones. They say that person's not understood in a marriage, so they think, well, this isn't working out for me. I see what else I can do, and there's a conflict in that area. You see, doing things that shouldn't do associated with. That's what I have the heroine and anti-heroine playing off each other in this series.
Yeah. Sometimes there's nothing quite as good as a good fight.
Oh yeah.
Are you the type of writer who only wants to hear positive critique of your work, or do you accept everything?
I accept some things, not all. Sometimes I get my own style of writing. I don't choreograph. Some people want to know, how does person A get from spot A to spot B, and I think don't do that. That's somebody told me that's what you have a director for. That's what they'll say. Okay, you go here, but if you're reading it, you can imagine them they're not rooted to the spot. They can move around. They just somebody like I had one part where I sent in for editing. It wasn't for editing. Must have wanted somebody to tell me how wonderful I am. And as I described a wedding scene where the bride takes aside one of her friends. It's a chat, And so this editor wanted to say, well, what side? Where do they go? What's the side table? I thought, it's a table to the side. What else do you want to know? Leave it at that. Don't get in the way. Don't get in the way. That's how I write. What's going on? How the characters relating to each other? How they're speaking to each other? That's all that's important. It's all that's important, in my view.
So if somebody were to come and tell you something negative about what you've written and it's trash or garbage or whatever, like, would you take that personally, or would you look at what they've said and really apply it to how you're looking at it, or does it really matter to you? Or, I mean, like, for me, I don't really care what people think because it's just an opinion. I want to know if it moves them or causes them to think or ask questions, right? So I find positive out of the negative comments. Can you do that?
Well, there's a certain political agenda out these days that everything, let's say, sex has to be consensual. So a couple of years ago, on our site, I posted something, an excerpt from the book, and so I got piled on saying it's not consensual, it's terrible, you shouldn't write that. So of course, on the next book, I flooded it with stuff like that.
Of course you would.
You know me, flooded it. The first one too, and the rewriters was, can almost, but because they have to, because it's controversial, it gets people's attention. But I found out also from the site, some people are into it. Some, not just men, some women are into it, and that's two sides to everything. And so some people will be, but if they're passionate, they're into it, they're passionate about it, and want to see how it turns out. What's this all about? What's in this guy's other strange mind?
But you're right about agendas and the way, what did I call them earlier? Big name or mainstream publishers want to push a certain way, and they won't let writers be writers, and it's got to be it's got to be this way, it's got to be that way, and then it stops becoming your book.
You can't really write something that isn't that you don't believe in. I don't think you can. Even, and of course this goes into appropriation, but if you want to write about it, fine. People tell you this does not make sense, But I find that more and more. I was going after agents before for the first book, and for the second one, they want certain new voices, the oppressed and marginalized, which is fine. But let them write their own story. I can try it if I want, but it won't work out. As people might say, my characters are marginalized, but somebody here said that my habits are very niche, very specialized, which is true. It is probably getting my way, but I'm not going to write it over. It's like trying to turn a cottage into a 10-story building. It doesn't quite work.
The fact of the matter is that these things exist in our society, in our world. These things really exist, and we might not agree with them. But why can't we put them in our writing? That might not be the way that you feel about what you're writing, but it is something that exists, and we can't sugarcoat it.
What exists?
Well, just any of these taboo or risque things.
My Dark Vanessa.
Yeah.
Okay, I read it. This is a practice from my book. It's not. This second one has similar topic. It's had reviews and had a lot of. It does get a very creepy feeling at times,
But that exists in this world.
And it exists, yeah. And the heroine is very conflicted. She's sort of attracted and repulsed by him at the same time. She goes to him of her own free will when she's an adult, and then later on she realizes her life is a ruin, and that's what makes it an interesting book, because how do these people feel about it? That's what has to be good. You can't just write, well, it's terrible. Even somebody on our site, in the Canada Right, said, had a very odd feeling about what is going on when she was a child. Very odd feeling.
How many books out there that are considered classic literature that have been banned?
Yeah, that's big these days.
Well, it is big these days, but I mean, some of these books have been banned for decades and whatnot. So why is that? I mean, somebody had the passion to write about it. Why would anybody want to say, no, you can't do that? Because there's obviously people that are interested in it.
Because they think we're children. And some people think, well, this shouldn't be publicized. It might not be publicized, but it's you that's curiosity. You know, when like I don't know. Well, Mein Kampf comes to mind. Okay, and if you
Okay.
want to read it, read it fine. You know, but I hear that's not well written anyways, and whoever
Well,
wants to will read it.
how
But
many of these same people that want to ban books are watching TV shows like Criminal Minds that all they do is, crimes against children or sex crimes or that? It's like a double standard.
yeah, well, I was binge watching Breaking Bad a couple of months ago. There's one scene there where kids get shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it's hard to watch, it's hard to take, because kid wasn't doing anything. But it does happen, and it does. And like I said, if you don't want to read it, don't read it.
Yeah,
Don't tell me what to buy, what to read.
I've been binge watching Law and Order, and there's been a lot of that throughout it. So, yeah. Moving along then, Philip, do you think it is important for anyone who thinks they are a writer to get education for it?
I didn't have any education for it, not since I left college a couple of lifetimes ago. But you should have some kind of practice. Somebody give you, like, I hired an editor early on to show her what I was doing. And also, I wanted someone to talk to about it also, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But you need someone who tells you, here's the three G's: what's great, what's good, and what's garbage.
Okay.
You have someone to tell you, this is your strength. You should try to do more of it. This is where your weak spot is. Try to improve it, or don't do as much of it as you can, as you want to. And you need someone to hold you to a standard, which unfortunately it isn't the case these days.
I did an interview not too long ago with an editor, and I'm going to tell him about your three G's because he kind of touched on that, but I like the way you put that. Who started you on your writing journey? And if they were listening to this podcast, what would you like to say to them?
I started at one point. The funny thing was, I went back to it. I realized I was paying attention to how I was writing emails and comments. I thought, let's try to be bigger, write a few odd stories. And the first chapter of Dark Muse is one of those stories. It's been written by the idea of, like, it happened in Montreal, somebody walking up onto the ice and Boxing Day and falling through, and it was a mystery. But what got me really going on this was somebody I know here in Montreal named David, not David in the story.
Okay.
And he's a learned guy. He you can talk to him about anything. He's taught all levels from elementary to high school to university. He's taught all levels. And I wrote two stories. One was a takeoff on a series in a magazine, that religious magazine. Basically talked about somebody who ripped off his family business, stole the store out from under everybody, pocketed the money. He's the villain. So I did a rewrite of it, wrote it from his point of view and why he did it, just for the fun of it, And there's another story called Form of Darkness, Form of Light. It's more of a book length. It was my practice novel for Dark Muse.
Okay.
And I showed them to this guy, this David. And I followed him up a couple of weeks later and asked, what do you think? He said, it's good. Said, what's good? Both of them. They're both good. He said, the characters have legs. They're complex, conflicted, and they can work with it. So then I realized, okay, I could take this further. And that book I showed to a Montreal publisher. I forgot his name already. And he looked at it twice and he said, we don't do fiction. Okay. But I took that book, I turned it into a paranoid. When I before I sank the ship, I took some of the characters over to the new vessel, and made them a bit deeper. And anti-hero was still there, raising trouble of all kinds. But he got me going. He is one of the people who were more qualified, more experienced than me, who told me, you got something here. I mean, they all contributed to my advancing in this racket, or whatever you want to call it.
Racket, yeah. So that was that Dave character, that Dave gentleman who's taught at all levels. Okay. And what would you like to say to him?
David, bonjour, chef. He's from Paris, and you see the guy dresses like an absent-minded professor. He hasn't changed his winter down coat in years and years, but he's got something to say about everything. So mild mannered. He's extremely educated, you know.
Yeah, a real character.
Yeah, yeah. Now he's about 72. He's about 70 years old now. He's in the chocolate business. He
Oh,
makes chocolate.
nice.
Yeah, Belgian chocolates.
Writing pet peeves. Do you have any? And if so, what are they?
I know. I learned to plow ahead. Learned to plow ahead. I learned that if you have what you call writer's block, you just write anything. Even if you have to dump it, well, there's still something there you can salvage. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so something you can salvage. A few months ago, I was diagnosed that I had ADD for my whole life. So sometimes when I'm about to start something, I keep on distracting myself because I know once I get into it, I won't stop. So I want to do something else. It's a very strange thing. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I do. That's why I'm laughing.
You know,
Absolutely.
I'm contrary. Look, here's a story I once told. Once when I was in university, the one assignment was going for BCom of all things, and I had an assignment to read a book, read a style on the managerial style, read an essay on the managerial style of the lead character. So you read Catch-22?
Yeah.
There's a guy that Milo minded by it. It was a black market. So I wrote on his managerial style. That he's a crook and a black. You know, he bought eggs for 5 cents a piece, sold them for 2 cents, and eventually he still made money on it. You know, the whole page-long explanation on how he did that. So I thought, okay, I got to do that. Of course, I got a failing grade in the essay, but I still have a story I can tell 40 years later, 50 years later. So, that's me in a lot of ways,
Of touch, taste, sight, smell, and sound, which one do you incorporate into your stories the most?
People tell me I'm visual.
Visual.
Seeing. The first thing you see is the what do you see? You see person, how tall are they? Tall, short, your size, hair color, whatever's left of it, and the walk straight. That's like as away from for a Passover last week, and there's a guy there who's a manager, the catering service, and he had to walk, and he walked through the dining hall. You could tell he was in charge because he had this gait and his way looking around like a general. Okay, that's the first thing so the sight is the first thing I mentioned.
Okay, so how would you do something like that for a blind person?
I mean, describing him for you?
Yeah, like I'm reading your book and you're giving all these visual clues that I might not be able to pick up on. So you've just, and I'm not saying that you do this, but
okay, I say that this fellow would gesture, people would run to him. When he gave an order, was heard and understood the first time and carried out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was talking with somebody or interviewing somebody recently, and I posed this question to them, and it floored them. They were like, I've never even considered anybody who's got any of these, no hearing or no vision, and writing for them or writing to include them. And I just, I think it's important.
See, truth is, I don't usually go into physical descriptions of the characters.
Okay.
Because people have their own idea of what the person looks like. When it gets too detailed, I don't bother.
Yeah.
I describe this color, height, hair color, and that's it. They're attractive, fine. People can figure out what I mean by that.
Well, everybody's attractive in their own ways to different people, anyway. So
exactly.
It's like when I greeted you, I said you don't sound like what I expected you to, and you said I don't sound as tall as you thought.
Yeah, so it works. It
works, but we understood it.
Yeah, more pretty much. Yeah.
What's going on around you when you're writing? Is there is there music playing, or do you have a dog or a cat nearby, or do you have a Newton's cradling? And if you don't know what a Newton's cradle is, it's those 6 balls of clackers. Yeah.
Radio silence, like a squadron of Air Force planes moving into the final 5 minutes. I'm getting inside the character's head, getting inside the scene. I want to know what they're thinking.
Total radio silence.
Everything's blacked out. Everything else blacked out.
And what happens when you get interrupted? Do you lose it all, or?
It's not pleasant. It's not pleasant.
For who? You or them?
Years of therapy.
Years of therapy. Uh-oh. Here's the bonus question for you. If I showed up in a time machine and said, hey, Philip, where would you like to visit? What time would you go to?
I mean, anywhere, anytime?
No, just any time. What time period would you go to? Because there's no guarantee where you're going to end up, but just what time period would you like to go?
Ooh.
And why? That's why it's a mystery question.
Oh, okay. This is for a joke. 1940s Ontario, because Wade Hemsworth's song about Ontario, little black flies going up north into Ontario, were doing battle with black flies as he tried to survey it down. Okay, so it's like it's part of Ontario.
Okay, that's a valid. Yeah, I guess so. What advice would you give someone who's just starting their writing journey?
Observe carefully. Read things. See what's going on around you also. There's also some story out there. People ask, where do you get your stories? You get the stories come from the news, like I got mine. Yeah. No, listen to people carefully. People have all sorts of stories about their lives, what they've done before. Listen to them. Play it up. Feel alternate stories to that, you know?
So you think it's important to be in tune with what's going on around you?
Yes, very much.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Because if you're out of touch, well, there's valid points to that too. We're going to get into what I call shameless plugging. And this is where you get to talk about some of the things that you've done and are doing. And so with that said, so what works do you currently have in publication? I've plugged your two books at the beginning. You can talk about them a little bit more and where they can be found.
The first one is on Amazon, has Dark Muse, Richard Lightning Bolt through it. The second one is being rewritten because I had to, stuff that was a collection of stuff, didn't have a focus to it, and a bite to it either. And I like bites. And she's not listening. And so I had to put together some spare change so we can afford a cover and an editor because I'm sort of all plugged out of querying letters and everything, you know. I probably told somebody, I hope somebody rejects me before I die, you know, so at least I know where I stand with them.
So do you self-publish then, or?
Looks like it, yeah. Looks like it. You do have to get a professional editing and a professional cover if you're doing that. You can't do it with a makeup job or something you get up a template somewhere. It looks like every other cover. It has to, and show what genre it is without being too obvious. Like if you look at some books that are, with real publishing agencies, the covers are original. You know, they don't, except for romance. Even then, sometimes it's hard to make a direct connection with a genre, but it catches the attention. But you have to pay for that sort of cover.
Yeah, well, that's what you really need, though, is that cover to pop to draw the attention in, right?
Yeah.
Of your two books, do you prefer one over the other, or do you like them both the same? And or if there's a difference,
that's not fair. That's not a fair question.
Yes, it is.
I like them both. I have something. The first one was a broke ground. A lot of ways a broke ground. You use Jewish tradition to make a real story, and if somebody knows it well, but sometimes really religious knows the material, won't have anything to do with my book because of the adult content, but it has a lot of it in there. You know, the role of the role of angels, the role of rich commands that last through generations. You know, the deep duty. Life. Life and death matters.
Yep.
And I like the second one. It's one main point that didn't change, which is the relation that person I mentioned before, by the street person. And somebody reviewed it and said it should win an award. What I did with him. Okay. Something about it that's I can't say too much about it. I won't say too much about it. But it's a body blow. It's a body blow. Okay.
Okay.
And so that's something I'm proud of how I handled it.
And that was in your first book?
Second book.
The one that you're rewriting.
First into the second.
Okay. Do you presently have anything that you're working on outside of your second book that you're rewriting? And if so, how close to completion is it?
I have to rewrite the third book.
the third book too.
Because I did something there that could kill the series.
Okay.
A major reveal that could kill the series. And so I realized, and also my editor told me there's not enough suspense in it. But the fourth book has some major suspense, okay? It's a life and death battle between the heroine and her cousin.
Okay.
So I was thinking combining them. But I have to figure out how do I combine them. And thought, well, I probably will rewrite the whole stupid thing anyways, being what I am.
Yeah. So how many of these do you have planned then? Just at 4, or how far does the series go in your mind?
Oh, gosh. 3, 4 anyways. It should get me going till I'm senile. I'm maybe senile right now for all I know.
Well, we're probably all on our way there at least.
Yeah.
Especially in this current thing we call society, what's going on. So where can people connect with you? Things like emails or websites or snail mail, blog, Meta, or formerly Facebook or whatever.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook under Philip Mann Montreal.
Okay. And that's
on
with
LinkedIn.
2 N's.
Yeah, 2 N's. I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I'm on Medium also. We're in Medium now.
Okay. And what about Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok?
So TikTok would work if I was 40 years younger and I was a girl, okay? But if you see this snowstorm I have for a face, it ain't going to happen, Now, why else does anybody watch this stuff,
I can't even figure TikTok out. That's my age is showing there.
Yeah.
You're in a couple of writing groups on Facebook?
Yeah.
And so you said...
in it now, but no, I take part, ask weird questions. Like I asked one a couple of years, last summer, I asked, do you lick or do you bite? I had ice cream in mind, but I didn't tell everybody that,
Well, yeah, and where their mind goes, you're not responsible for, by the way.
Well, in a way I am, but
No, you're not. No, you're not. You put out a question that could have been read any way at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Cool.
I like to do things like that too, just to mess with people. But they know me too well, so it just... Anyway, that's another story for another interview. Is there anything you'd like to say to anybody listening? It doesn't have to be about writing. It could be about writing or life in general, or, come visit me in Montreal at this place, or...
No, I God forbid any of my readers should come to see me. Gosh, scared stalkers out there. Like Stephen King and what's her name, anyways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. From
Misery.
Misery. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I could only wish I would have a stalker or two, but
I used to joke about that. That one thing I wanted about being an author was making money and having groupies. But somebody said, no, you don't want that. You don't want that.
I have no comment for that.
And you're not even married.
No, well, married twice, divorced twice.
Okay, so you're close enough.
Close enough, been there, done that, and I'm not sure if I want to do it again.
Yeah.
Philip, this has been fun. I always like doing these interviews. One, because I get to meet people that I've talked to for so long, clickety clacking on the computer, but never actually putting a voice to a face or a face to a voice.
Yeah.
So this is always fun for me, and I love meeting people, and you're no exception to that. We've been talking for years now.
Yeah, it looks like it, eh?
Yeah, for years. I've had my group for 2 years, and I was in the other one for, God knows how long. But the people that have signed up to want to be a part of this has blown me away. I've got at least 60 people sitting in the wings that want to be part of this show. And finally you reached out and said, hey, I'm going to fill out that application. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for agreeing to doing this and taking time out of your day to be with me. And, well, you know what, Philip? Have yourself a good rest of the afternoon, and wonderful. You have been listening to Between the Lines. In future episodes, I will not only be speaking with Canadian authors and writers, I will also be speaking with those from the other side of the writing industry, editors, agents, and publishers, in the hopes of getting a better understanding of how it all works together. If you liked what you heard, hit the subscribe button to be notified of new episodes and content. Send all your comments, suggestions, or any questions you'd like to have a guest answer to me at randy.bmclean bplpodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to visit me at www.therandylacey.ca. While there, look for the Buy Me a Coffee button to help support the podcast. Thank you for your time and your ears. Tune in, be inspired, and write on.